US President Donald Trump says that he is prepared to keep the US government shut down for as long as it takes, months or even years. This comes after the White House talks again failed to find a way out of the impasse on the border wall with Mexico. The US President has threatened to take the controversial step of using emergency powers to build the wall without approval from Congress. Trump is withholding his support for a bill that would fully fund the government until he secures the money for the wall. Federal police began to close a migrant shelter in Mexico's northern city of Tijuana, aiming to relocate about 100 people who had traveled in a caravan from Central America with hopes of entering the United States. The arrival of several thousand migrants in recent months, many fleeing poverty and violence in Honduras, has challenged Mexico's new president to make good on pledges to protect migrants in Mexico, just as the US makes it increasingly hard for them to cross the border. Tijuana officials cited sanitary reasons for closing the shelter. US President Donald Trump said that the talks between Washington and Beijing aimed at resolving a bitter trade dispute were going very well. Trump also said that he was not concerned about a recent revenue warning from Apple that resulted in a sharp stock drop. The iPhone maker faces the looming threat of a court-ordered sales ban in China, the uncertain outcome of the trade war talks, and the rollout of a new 5G network where it finds itself behind rivals like Huawei and Samsung. The Gaza offices of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas' official Palestine television station were attacked and ransacked. The incident adds to tensions between his Palestinian Authority and the Islamist Hamas movement, which rules the territory. 5 men broke into the premises early on Friday and destroyed cameras, editing and broadcast equipment worth nearly $150,000. The station broadcast material supportive of Abbas's Western Bank Authority, whose power base lies in the West Bank station. Officials immediately blame Hamas for the attack. Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered the Chinese armed forces to enhance their combat readiness, to form a new starting point and open new ground for developing a strong military. Xi made the instruction at ACMC meeting held in Beijing, hailing the landmark, pioneering and historic military achievement since the 18th CPC National Congress. Xi said the armed forces had resolutely safeguarded national sovereignty, security and development interests and withstood complex situations and severe struggles. Xi asked them to upgrade commanding capability of joint operations, foster new combat forces and improve military training under combat conditions. German police have detained 3 men suspected of involvement in an explosion that targeted an office of the Alternative for Germany far-right party in eastern state of Saxony. And no one was injured in the explosion outside the AfD office in the city. The blast set the office on fire and damaged vehicles and nearby buildings. An anti-terrorism unit has determined the explosion was an escalation in a politically motivated attacks targeting AfD offices in Saxony that are usually limited to acts of vandalism. Shots were fired outside a building in central Cologne, and one suspect has been detained by the German police. A police searched the building with a special unit looking for possible victims or armed suspects. The streets near the central train station and landmark cathedral was cordoned off. Police are on the search for 2 men and a woman who were believed to have fled the scene on foot and in a car. At least 4 people were injured after an unidentified object was detonated at a bus stop in center of Santiago. The injured were taken to nearby health centers, one of them listed in serious condition. Television images showed the bus stop cordoned off by police and bomb squad agents in special suits searching the area. Last similar incident in the Chilean capital was in 2014 after a device was detonated in a commercial district that left 14 people injured. Tallying centers in Kinshasa have begun compiling the results of last weekend's chaotic elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo after delays in getting local tallies ready for central counting. The announcement of results is likely to be delayed in Geneva. The UN Human Rights Office warned that the government's decision to cut internet access and block some media outlets after the elections could cause a violent backlash when results are announced. Pre-election polling showed ex-Interior Minister saying that Kabila's preferred candidate trailing the main opposition candidates. UN Human Rights Office says it could not assess the fairness of a trial taking place in Saudi Arabia related to the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, but that in any case was not sufficient. The UN office has reiterated the office's call for an independent investigation with international involvement. It has always opposed the death penalty, she added, as Saudi Arabian prosecutor seeks the death penalty for 5 of the 11 suspects detained over the murder of Khashoggi. Five teenage girls died in a fire which broke out at an escape room of a game center in northern Poland. One man was hospitalized with severe burns in the fire. It is believed that the 15-year-old victims were celebrating a birthday at the interactive game center. An escape room is an adventure game in which players use clues, hints, and strategy to find a way out of a locked room. Inspired by video games, the live-action experience is popular with teenagers around the world. There are some 1,000 escape rooms in Poland alone. Some 44 migrants were rescued off Turkish village of Altınova after a failed attempt to sail to the Greek island of Lesbos. Migrants, mainly from African countries, called a helpline after their boat sank and they remained stranded on a wave breaker. Turkey has drastically curtailed the exodus of migrants in 2016 under a deal with the EU after hundreds died crossing to Greek islands a few miles off the Turkish shore. In the first major winter storm to bear down on Italy in 2019, some 2 meters of snow fell on the mountain villages in central Molise region. Cars were buried and only a few people ventured out with shovels to try and cut a path from their homes. Residents said that the biting wind had been one of the most unpleasant aspects to deal with and many roads were impassable. It was a winter wonderland in Greece as heavy cold front sweeping through Eastern Europe blanketed many parts of the country in thick layers of snow. As much as 1 meter of snowfall fell in northern and central Greece, closing many roads and disrupting traffic. In many areas, passage was only possible with snow chains. The forest of Mount Perintha were near Athens were a sea of endless white, contrasted by the protected red deer skirting through the snow. The temperatures dropped well below zero in many regions in northern Greece, where some local media reported problems with electricity. Parts of Slovakia were blanketed by snow as temperatures dropped to minus 10 degrees Celsius in mountainous regions. Winds were blowing at a force of 36 to 54 kilometers per hour and total snowfall reached up to 100 centimeters in some areas. Some ski resorts in the country's high Tatras area reported up to 190 centimeters of snow and an increased danger of avalanches. Bombs were hurled at the houses of two left leaders in northern Kerala. The attack happened when the left leader was attending a peace meeting after widespread violence hit the state. For the past 3 days, Kerala has witnessed protests, violence and a police clampdown after two women entered the Sabrimala temple. The special PMLA court in Mumbai will pronounce its verdict today on an application moved by the Enforcement Directorate to declare businessman Vijay Mallya a fugitive economic offender. If the court declares Mallya a fugitive, then he would be the first to be so under the newly formed Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. Upon declaring Mallya a fugitive, the agency will be able to confiscate all his properties, irrespective of them being purchased within the proceeds of crime or not. This would also include his properties in Karnataka, UK and others that are yet to be confiscated by the agency.